going to start with Pyung Ahn Ee Dan. We're going to be thinking about this hand position here. And when we're analyzing when two hands are moving, we want to be thinking about what they could be doing simultaneously, what they could be doing separate from one another, and what the shape of the movement could also be doing. So our first application is going to be against someone who doesn't have a lot of experience, and they're just coming at us, kind of swinging wildly with punches, right? I'm here, Dave comes at me with a big wild punch, and I'm just going to cover this way and protect my head. And as he throws a second, I'm just going to cover this way and protect my head. So this becomes a dual defense. They're not coming up at the same time. Instead, I cover with one, and he's immediately coming in with a second. So I'm just putting this barrier, this frame, around my head. So he comes in one, and I cover this way, and then he comes in with two, and I cover this way, and then off of this, maybe this is my counter, where I come in with an uppercut underneath of the chin. So I have one punch, maybe I'm looking to throw a reverse punch or something like that here, but before I can do that, he's already coming in with his other punch, so I have to make a second defense. Then I counter with my uppercut. So we'll go one more time. And of course, we could follow with any number of variations and things. Another way to analyze the form is not to think of, when two hands are doing something, you can always say, or whenever two things are happening at one time, you can say, what would happen if I did them separately, one after the other? And in this scenario we just saw, this could be a block, and then this could be a block that follows. The next question is, what if the hands moved at the same time? In this scenario, I'm here, and I'm a little bit more ready. Dave throws that overhand punch, and I just want to block and punch underneath this way. Or he can throw the lead hand punch, and I'm going to block and cover and come up underneath with my uppercut this way. So I start from here. As he punches here, I want to turn my hip as I come up to this uppercut. And as he punches here on this one, I want to turn my hip as I come up with the uppercut. Right? So one more time. Boom. Another idea when hands are moving at the same time or techniques are moving at the same time is we can think of maybe we're loading for the next technique. So in this scenario where I'm here and my hands come up at the same time this way, right? This high hand is actually loading for a hammer strike. So from here, as I block, as opposed to blocking, loading, and then striking, which is going to be 3 beats, I block and load at the same time, and then I strike, which is going to be 2 beats. This particular technique is very, very, very useful in self-defense because it hits with the soft spot of the fist. You don't have to worry about breaking your knuckles, breaking your wrist, and it's extremely powerful, aiming right for the bridge of the nose. They throw the punch, you're ready for it, you block and hit. Block. We're thinking about this combination, blocking and loading, and then coming in with a hammer strike, right? So we can imagine our opponent throws a punch, and we block and load, grab, and pull them in, and hammer strike on the bridge of the nose, right? One more time. This kind of an idea. And an interesting correlation here, the ancient Greek martial art of pancration was one of the main Olympic events, 500 BC. And many of the depictions of them in their fighting stance show them in this kind of a position like this, which is very similar to this. And one of the historical references and ideas is that they were loading this hand to drop strikes down on their opponent. So it's an interesting idea. Perhaps this hand being extended like this was a similar way of measuring distance like we do in jiu-jitsu, while this hand being loaded up here was an idea of striking down. So 500 BC, there's an interesting correlation between these two motions and this motion. So we played a lot with this idea of using both hands in this opening sequence, and now we're going to kind of add on with some of the other movements that happen in the form and think about maybe a scenario that would apply to them. In this scenario, Dave has grabbed me by the shoulder, and he's kind of holding me, and then he's going to go to throw a punch to my face. So as he holds me, I'm going to be thinking about dropping my level down, like this, just like we do in the form. We get into a hugel stance and change our level. At the same time, this hand's going to come up and control his arm, while this hand comes up and deflects his punch. So we're here, he goes to throw the punch, I'm going to get down this way, right? Even if I miss the block, by getting down and tucking my chin, even if his punch was to hit me and glance off of my head, it's not going to be the best thing that happened to me all day, but it won't knock me out, and I'll be able to continue fighting. So we're here, he throws the punch, get down, I grab. Right off of this, I roll, and I strike up underneath the chin with my uppercut. Now, because I've secured this arm, I can reach over and grab his hand, his palm, right below the pinky finger. And I'm going to turn this way into an arm bar. And right off of that, I'm going to load, and I'm going to punch right into the armpit here to finish the sequence. So one more time, the attacker has grabbed my shirt. They're trying to hold me in position so they can punch me. Change the level, sink down. Uppercut, control the arm. There's the arm bar, punch right into the armpit.